and welcome to 11FS Spotlight. My name is David Brear. In this show, we shine a bit of a spotlight on the best and the brightest to really understand what is it that gets them going, growing, and really what do they think the future of the industry will actually look like. On today's Spotlight, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Eric Jorgensen. I always get names wrong, but is that about right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Who is the VP of EMEA at Zendesk. Really, really interesting company. I was saying before we started this, I bump into these guys everywhere in the industry being implemented. So talking about fintech, talking about financial services, and actually where Zendesk are really having an impact is going to be fantastic. So thank you very much for joining us. It's lovely to have you on. Tell us a little bit more about your role, and for anybody who's just joining into this as well, who are like, who's Zendesk? Because they haven't experienced it.
Sure.
Maybe they have had perfect experiences with all the companies that they've had, but tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so in my role at Zendesk, I run the European organisation, and we just had our 15-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
We have about 160,000 customers globally.
Wow.
We're actually a Copenhagen-founded company, and so we really started out with our founders saying, customer service kind of sucked with some of the legacy platforms out there, and I wanted to make it simple. I wanted to make it easy, and so we had a really fast growth early on with small organizations that were looking for something that was sort of essentially beautifully simple, something they could deploy themselves, manage themselves, and then grow their business as needed and with good customer experience. So to your point, the good customer experiences that we all enjoy, I think most of them are normally powered by Zendesk.
Yeah, I was saying before we started this, my son's like really into playing football, and VO cameras, like they're fantastic things, like full view. It's like match of the day on a Sunday after he's played a game. It's great. Yeah. And they're a customer, I noticed, like in the small print of an email that I got in that sense. But so you guys are multi-industry, lots of different companies, lots of different types of industries are really trying to level up this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything from core government through retail, financial services, manufacturing, the online gaming industries, all those sorts of industries are anything where you are interacting with an end customer and want to ensure you give them good service and don't irritate them by asking the same question too many times, right? That's anyone in that kind of space is a good customer to work with Zendesk.
Very cool. And we'll come back to Zendesk in a little while and sort of unpack that a little bit more in terms of like origins and where you see the future of that kind of going. But tell us a little bit more about your background then. I mean, it's a super cool role. You must get to travel around a lot and meet interesting companies, everybody trying to serve customers better. But I mean, how did you get here? Like, what's the background? What's your origin story?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't think many kids at school say I want to be in IT sales when I'm older, right? So, and I definitely wasn't one of them. So my early career was actually military. So I was involved with the Royal Engineers, and that was very much something I wanted to do. But unfortunately, due to a very minor heart problem, I took the low stress life of IT sales.
Wow. So, anybody who is watching this knows that is not true. But
I've been very fortunate. I think I fell into a role in a software company in sort of early 2000. And actually, strangely, in the sort of contraction the industry went through, that almost created opportunities. And I think I was very fortunate. I got elevated quite quickly into a role that perhaps I wouldn't have done had the industry not been changing in the pace it was. So I got to travel around a lot. I was working a lot in the early stages in mobile technology. So I remember, when 3G was a thing, so I'm aging myself now or dating myself now, but when 3G was a thing, I did a lot of work with operators in emerging markets. And it's really interesting to see the transformation that had in the way businesses were able to operate in emerging markets. I really enjoyed some of my time out in places like Kenya. I have some family history out there, and just seeing how this enabled small businesses, taxis, to operate in a different way based on this new technology in their hand. So I've always had that sort of interest in, not just the technology itself, but the sort of the impact it brings and enables people to operate in a different way and find new ways of generating income and providing for their families, essentially. So yes, I did that for a number of years. I've worked for some really big companies, some really small companies. I've been acquired. I think anyone that's been in this industry for a period of time has got various sort of, things they've done. But I've been with Zendesk for just over 2 years now. I guess I'm almost going full circle. My first sort of post-military job was working in a call center, dealing with customers calling to cancel their credit cards or, register their keys and things like that. And so somehow I find myself full circle back in the sort of customer service space.
Just a little bit more scalable, I guess,
yeah,
in that
absolutely.
sense. But how much does your military background sort of affect your day-to-day then? I'm not talking about, 300 push-ups before breakfast type vibe, but like, the mentality, the focus that comes with, and actually the attention to detail that comes from, people having a background in,
Sure.
military or, friends who have worked in the Navy and different things that are there. So, I mean, do you think that still affects your day-to-day life today?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I think today, there's tube strikes this morning, unfortunately, so it really irritated me that I wasn't here on time. I wasn't that late, just for the, but I was definitely.
You kept us waiting like 2 hours. No, I'm joking.
but actually, so I think I think one of the things with any sort of strand of the military is about showing up on time and doing what you say you're going to do. And I think in the way in which Zendesk and other companies I've worked for sort of present ourselves, I think that's what customers want. They want a vendor that's going to do the things they say they're going to do. They show up when they say they're going to show up, and they provide that partnership. And then I guess for Zendesk, it's then enabling our customers to provide that same thing to their customers. So I think there's a rigor and a discipline, I suppose, to the military side of things that I think can apply certainly in the commercial space.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels in there. I mean, because really what we're talking about there is culture, right? And actually the conventional army to the SAS. We're talking about and actually we're sort of seeing, is it a numbers game, as in, is my army bigger than your army, and does that win? But actually, I guess in the new world and playing that, parallel to digital, then actually, things like Zendesk, this scales really effectively without needing tens of thousands of people in the back office, right? It's a different game you're playing in that sense. I guess back to your call center days, and actually, there are some banks around the world where, if you double the customers, you've got to double the call center as well, which that's not a particularly effective way of serving customers in 2023, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you sort of taking the military parallel even further, you're right, that as you have a sort of a finite amount of resource, how do you most effectively use that resource to achieve what you're trying to achieve? And having just more people, more soldiers, more servicemen doesn't necessarily provide that security that you're looking to provide. And it's sort of the expertise and the training and the tools they have that I think makes a massive difference. So it's been a long time now, but it's still something which here I am, 25 years on, and it's still it's part of that kind of makeup and DNA, I suppose.
Yeah. So back to Zendesk then, in terms of what you guys are aiming to do, because I mean I think and really it sort of ties into the conversation around culture. I think the North Star of any organization, the vision, and actually how that changes over time as the maturity of the business, the maturity of the industry. What is Zendesk's North Star?
Yeah, we are absolutely all in on customer experience. So you look at other vendors that look at more of a sort of broader platform. I can lock you in and tie you into a magnitude of mediocre products that sort of somehow string together. We are laser focused on customer experience, and we have a purity of task, I suppose, in that regard, that says all of the investments we're making, both from our either mergers and acquisitions or through our own development resource, is laser focused on that. How do we help our customers best serve their customers? And continue to evolve with things like AI, with things like machine learning and other sorts of innovations to again make sure those finite resources that we have are best used on our side, but also within our customers as well.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, as you say, this isn't a the origins of the, and bizarrely, sometimes when I have these conversations, I know a little bit about people's product, but in your instance, I know a lot about your product, actually, having implemented it in different places and different things.
Sure.
But it's interesting to see how, workflows and actually the adjacencies to workflows become really important when you're trying to manage service for customers. I think people talk about service or customer experience, and they're talking about, how pretty their app looks or how simple their application process is. But the rubber really hits the road with any fintech, with any financial services thing, in fact, any business, when you actually have customers. And people never use things in the way that you think they would do, and they've always got some sort of element of feedback. And it's how you deal with that. That's how really your brand is manifested when things don't go well, rather than, what it says on the side of a bus or a TV advert, right? Yeah,
completely agree. I think the from a product side, again from a fintech product, you design the perfect product, and until you give it to the end user, then you find how they break it, they change it, and I think there's an acceptance, especially with earlier stage companies, that things aren't going to be perfect, and that's okay. Actually, I think it's a great point that you make is how you react to that, how you service that, how you provide that perception of real quality that says, oh, actually, yeah, great, you've done something that we never thought you would do. Delighted you've done it, and we can now efficiently help you resolve that issue and learn from it and either build it into our product or build it into our customer service platform to ensure that the next customer also gets to benefit from that. So I think that kind of community, but also that perception of quality based on experience is something which is really important when people are launching new platforms and new services and trying to encourage customers away from, the sort of the legacy default perhaps.
Yeah. And as you say, sort of customer experience, I mean, customer experience has CX, customer experience has a very broad category, doesn't it? But you guys have just put out a report looking at, what is world-class customer experiences.
Yeah.
Can you sort of deep dive a little bit more into that? Because, I mean, is it like 8,000 pages long? Because there's a really broad topic there.
Yeah. So it's not quite 8,000 pages.
It'll be a meaty PDF to download.
Yeah. It's pretty meaty. But so we interview over 3,700 customers, about 4,700 individuals in Zendesk customers, but just in the industry in general. And we're garnishing their feedback on what are the trends they're seeing, what are their priorities, what's the return they're delivering back to their business, and what are the business demanding from them in the coming year and even further ahead. So it's really trying to gather that information. It says, well, I think, again, one of the beauties of Zendesk is not that we sit here and say, like, we've got this, we know everything you need. It's more us then having that ability and the breadth of our customer base to say, our brand, to say, well, we want to go out and engage and discuss and pull that information in and create this kind of trends report that really kind of tries to distill that down to some of the key areas and key initiatives. For us clearly to help service that and help support that, but also just for other customers or other just the people in the industry to have a sort of a reference point of here's a consolidation of what we're seeing and some key points to consider for people's own sort of CX strategy, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting as well, because it's multi-industry, obviously, in terms of the different people. Because, a lot of things that we find is, vendors who just work in financial services get good for financial services.
Yep.
But very broadly, financial services suck. So, actually increasingly we find clients want good. They just want the experiences are being set by other industries. Everything you've got on your phone, the best experiences are really what you want to pour into financial services. So, I think that must be really important for your customers, because you're bringing what good actually is into your product roadmap and everything that goes with it. So.
Yeah, and I think so. It's one of the big verticals for us is retail, because in a retail environment, there's no filter. You're direct with the end user, and if they have a bad experience, it's easy for them to go and walk or digitally go and engage with the next provider. And so if you look at the sort of the stickiness of products and therefore potentially the lack of investment in good CX, because if the product's super sticky and I can't change my mortgage anyway, well then maybe if the CX isn't that great, maybe it's okay, right? But I think that's changing, and I think retail was a really good industry where the change or that lack of stickiness is such that people have to provide a great service, and then other industries are saying, well, hang on a minute. In an industry where people can move so quickly, can make those choices rapidly, what can I learn from that and apply to financial services or apply to manufacturing or apply to online gaming and things like that as well? So it's I think that breadth of our customer base is a massive strength of ours.
So what's the findings? What did you synthesizing these things down, synthesizing those conversations? What's the key things that came out of it?
Yeah, sure. So it's things like, one of the main things we're seeing clearly in the industry is AI and the importance of AI in providing relevant information rapidly to people to ensure that again, back to the military, that the resources we have are focused on the more complex cases. So what can we do to say, actually, we're not trying, I think we've all probably had experiences with sort of online chatbots and things where the thing just does not know what you're talking about. And all it's trying to do is deflect you and irritate you to the point that you give up and do something else. So it certainly feels like that.
I mean, that sounds like a conversation I was having with my wife walking in. She was like, if I close the app and my phone times out and then the thing's gone and then I did it again, and it's like, that's not a great experience.
No,
right?
no, exactly. So again, in a monopoly, you might be fine with that, but in a very competitive industry, you don't want to be that person, right? So the idea around, well, how can we use AI to really help those sorts of lower end cases be really super efficient, but also feel personalized for the consumer. so that it's not a frustrating process. But it quickly gets to the point where because we've got the AI and we've got the ability to focus it, if I'm not able to solve it, I get you to an agent quickly, and that agent isn't on a long queue because we've not bombarded them with lots of basic tasks. So certainly that overall, and I guess that's been a trend. If I'm honest with you, I think in the last 20 years, you'd say that sort of deflecting where I can, but I think it's almost more sort of intelligent deflection, and then really sort of leveraging our agents for the more complex tasks. So that clearly is a big trend. But also I think the other thing around just general personalization. So I think there's as you say, you look at the different industries, people are looking at, well, when I go onto this website, I get a super personalized experience. Well, why can't I have that elsewhere? And so again, in the fintech industry, there's lots of data, lots of engagement information out there that can be leveraged to provide, well, actually, we know that Eric doesn't really like clicking on these elements or doesn't actually engage with that type of product and content, but does engage with this.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're helping our customers provide, again, an efficient and sort of frictionless experience from a personalization point of view.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because everybody consumes information differently. Everybody engages with content. I mean, financial services have got almost a defensive play with all the amount of acronyms that it's got, so how different people engage with content is important, and the level of communication that they need is different as well. So, I mean, one of the things that I saw came out of the report was the sort of discussion around immersive experiences and what that has the potential to do to really offer more of an engaging service for everybody, right?
Yeah. And I think, again, we were talking about this brief before the cameras got turned off. It's a shame they didn't roll the cameras earlier, actually. But it was, it's almost that sort of like, it's an ongoing conversation, that immersive experience, which says, well, I'm not just treating this as a case or a ticket I want to open and close as quick as I can and get to the next one. It's building that almost sort of loyalty and almost like bond with the customer that says, oh, actually, I remember we had this conversation 2 months ago, and you said, this is what you asked us for, and here's how we solved it. And I can bring that to the next conversation, and it feels like a continuation rather than just a point in time ticket, solve the problem, move to the next thing.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, financial services is increasingly experiential. Therefore, that service, and that ongoing, I mean, it's a relationship, isn't it? You're no longer the financial instruments the most critical thing. It's the usage of them on a day-to-day basis. So that makes total sense to me, because whether I built up some greater level of relationship with them is based on those interactions, isn't it?
Yeah. But also, I think when you look at, it's where I live now, I think by the summer there'll be no high street banks anymore. So it's a relatively small town, but and when I moved there 14 years ago, I think we were pretty well served with 6 or 7, and now they're all gone. And so, the view that, well, I have a relationship with my bank. Well, okay, I think that's changed massively anyway in the last 20 years. But the idea that I'd walk into my local branch and I'd know the branch manager, and somehow my mortgage application would be more convenient or easier because I've got that relationship, I think that's changed massively anyway. But it's now got to the point where it really is all digital and online. And so that perception that the bank cares about me because I've got this immersive experience and they remember what we talked about last time and they've brought that into the next conversation, I think has a huge potential for creating brand loyalty and customers feeling engaged and feeling that I'm not just being pushed down this channel because it's cheaper for the bank. It's actually to deliver a better, more personalized service.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, your YouTube or Instagram algorithm knows more about your preferences than your bank does, and actually, or not that they necessarily know more, but they're actually actively curating an experience for you, which, to your point earlier on around, look, the expectation from other industries is that this thing's happening, right? So, how do we get there? That's the challenge, isn't it? Because, really in a world, to your point, where, the commoditization of financial services products, 7-day switching, simple processes, et cetera, you're only really as loyal as long as the product rate is where it is. And the things that really differentiate brands are services, aren't they? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think also we look at some of the well-being and sentiment things as well. So I think there's also, quite a big duty of care in financial services around customer well-being. And I think that's also something we're seeing more and more. One of the things I think, another one of the sort of trends came out in our report was, there's an onus on the provider to make sure that we are not only providing good service, but we're actually providing that duty of care, the right information, giving access to the right support people need in an efficient way. And again, I think we all saw during the pandemic when you'd call whatever industry it was, and the default IVR system said, "Sorry, we're experiencing delays because we're helping vulnerable customers," which is great. I mean, absolutely, there's that duty of care, but it's then that providing that in a way that is as frictionless as possible and as efficient as possible, so that you are getting the right service, the right care, the right sentiments to the right people, while still being able to deal with the mass amount you have of other engagements as well. So we are seeing that as being I think again, as we're now sort of, I guess we're sort of post-pandemic now, but it's sort of that kind of sentiment and self-care part is definitely an important part as well.
Yeah. Have you seen that be a real driver then? Has as you say, the sort of post-pandemic side of things, have people started taking this, or maybe even different industries taking this more seriously in terms of that? Because to your point, pre-pandemic, trundle into a branch, cash out, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
But actually, now that the world has shifted quite dramatically, there's not those real options. And the other side of that, I guess, is we're increasingly seeing people forced to use digital that were, resisting for whatever reason. Have you seen a real drive, or I mean, even the change of the mix of the customers that are coming to you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No, so we definitely see a drive on large organizations needing to provide clear and concise access to vulnerable customers and to people that require that additional amount of sort of help. And it's a great point. In the past, you would walk into the branch, and you'd be able to almost be visibly sort of like taken and provide that support. So in a digital world, it's enabling that to happen without the obvious sort of physical indicators. So we have to be able to then pick that up digitally and give people a quick and easy access to the sort of the support they need if they're in a vulnerable state.
Yeah. So what's next for Zendesk then? What's on the roadmap? You guys, like I say, you must be getting feedback from customers and their customers all of the time as well. So
sure. So
what's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant evolution. Like everyone, there's obviously more and more around AI and what that can mean to improve the end customer experience, and also the cost economics for the companies using our platform. So we're looking always at how we embed more and more around that, and we've got things happening all the time, and certainly planned later this year in that regard. And then other than that, I think it really is just this continued evolution of the multiple channels and the way in which people want to interact, and making sure that people have that it's a customer-driven journey, not a company-driven, either by Zendesk platform or by the organization using our system. So we're definitely seeing that as a trend, and something we're enabling more and more, which is customers don't want to be told, you've got to do it this way. They want to be able to say, well, actually, I WhatsApped you yesterday, I sent you a tweet the other day after, and I'm calling you today, and I want that all to be somehow joined up and not have to start from scratch each time. And we are seeing that being, again, something which has been around for a bit, but is becoming more and more core and a much bigger use case. So that kind of just, customer-centric journeys and sort of personalization of that is a continual thing for our platform. So that move from, sort of chat type things to more messaging type conversations is becoming more and more the trend we're seeing.
Very cool. Well, as I'm, touching you guys through various products that I use in our household, then I look forward to seeing that one sort of develop as it comes. I mean, usually as we sort of close out and we're running out of time rapidly, I kind of ask you some advice about, getting into your career and things. But given that this is so CX focused, I think, and actually I'm sure there's various customers of yours listening to this, or potential customers of yours that are there as well. Like, what would be the one thing you could encourage a company to do to change their CX for the better?
Yeah, sure. I think it's all very much that sort of customer obsession.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's the same for Zendesk, right? If I'm honest with you, we also have a big mandate internally this year, which is we also want to be customer obsessed. So it's all about, is the thing that I'm doing helping my customer have a better service, an easier service, and building that sort of loyalty and brand awareness, I suppose. So for me, I think it's always sort of, again, it sounds probably quite simple, but just sort of having that obsession with the customer and almost that focus on it. Like, there's almost that, I do subscribe to this theory that you should write down your 10 top priorities and then cross out 7 of them. It's because unless you're deprioritizing something that you truly believe is important, it's not really a priority, right? And so having that real focus that says, well, it's not even 10, it's hundreds of things that these organizations could be doing. But if you're focused on that on your customer and the obsession around delivering the best CX to that customer, it's amazing what that drives with focus. And I think that's something I see in my team and I see in Zendesk all the time. And we certainly see with our sort of most progressive customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. We share a very similar belief. And I mean, customers are really good at telling you what they're doing. They're really bad at describing features.
Sure.
So really getting to their grips with their, we all say with jobs to be done, getting to grips with the brutal realities of day-to-day lives for your customers and what problems are they really trying to solve is a fascinating one. And yeah, I mean, 1,000 things on the list of your backlog. Your product teams are going to be busy, right? But
absolutely.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are running out of time. We've got to get on with our days as everybody does. But thank you so much for joining us. Where can people learn a little bit more about you guys and actually you individually as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm actually probably not the most social media aware person. So LinkedIn, I'm all over that. So people, by all means, please do reach out to me through LinkedIn. I mean, Zendesk.com. We'll provide all the information on our platform, and happy to engage with anyone we can, both in terms of what we can do to help, but just industry wide and to your point, career wide as well. People out there looking to sort of look in roles in IT sales and things like that. Always happy to have a chat.
And if they want to get a copy of the report, where is the report?
Again, on our website. It can be downloaded, just with a few clicks.
Very cool. All right, on that note, if you have enjoyed this, then I'm sure you have, but if you want to follow up everything that we're doing with 11FS, you can search for 11FS, you can search for FinTech Insider on, I think, pretty much every social media channel at this point, guys, right? If you do enjoy the episodes, make sure you subscribe. The YouTube channel, you can catch all of the previous episodes that are there as well. And if you did like it, then feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm always interested to hear some feedback and learn from what we can do better on that point as well. Have a great weekend, everybody. Goodbye.